The neon sign of Eddie's Diner flickered one last time before going dark, casting the empty street into an eerie silence. Victoria Hayes pulled her denim jacket tighter around her shoulders as she stepped out into the midnight air, her yellow work apron still tied around her waist. At 26, she had worked the late shift at the diner for almost 2 years, but tonight something felt different about the familiar walk to the bus stop. The street that usually felt safe and routine now seemed longer, darker. Victoria quickened her pace, her footsteps echoing off the brick walls of the narrow alley that served as a shortcut to the main road. She had taken this path hundreds of times, but tonight the shadows seemed deeper, more threatening. Halfway through the alley, Victoria heard footsteps behind her. Not the casual stride of another late-night worker heading home, but deliberate, measured steps that seemed to match her pace. Her heart began to race as she realized someone was following her. She walked faster, but the footsteps behind her did the same. Victoria's mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. The bus stop was still 3 blocks away, and the alley stretched ahead of her like a tunnel with no escape. Suddenly, a firm hand gripped her arm. Victoria spun around, ready to scream, when she found herself looking into the intense brown eyes of a man in an expensive dark suit. He appeared to be in his early 30s, with carefully styled dark hair and a strong jawline that spoke of confidence and authority. "Walk faster," he said urgently, his voice low but commanding. "Do not look back, and do not ask questions. Just trust me and walk faster." Victoria's first instinct was to pull away, to run from this stranger who had grabbed her in a dark alley. But something in his eyes stopped her. There was no malice there, no threat. Instead, she saw concern, protection, and an urgency that made her blood run cold. "What is happening?" she whispered, allowing him to guide her forward at a quicker pace. "There are 2 men behind us who have been following you since you left the diner," he replied quietly, his hand still firmly but gently holding her arm. "I noticed them when I was leaving my office building across the street. They started following you, so I started following them." Victoria felt her knees go weak. She had sensed something was wrong, but hearing it confirmed made the danger real and immediate. "Who are you?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady as they moved quickly through the alley. "Someone who could not stand by and watch," he replied simply. "My name is Alexander Stone. Right now, the most important thing is getting you somewhere safe." As they reached the end of the alley, Alexander guided Victoria toward the well-lit main street where late-night traffic still moved steadily. The moment they stepped into the light, Victoria heard the footsteps behind them stop and then retreat. "They are gone," Alexander said, finally releasing her arm. "But let me call you a taxi to make sure you get home safely." Victoria turned to face her unexpected protector fully for the first time. Alexander Stone was impeccably dressed in a charcoal grey suit that probably cost more than she made in a month. His watch caught the streetlight, revealing what looked like expensive Swiss craftsmanship. Everything about him spoke of wealth and success, yet he had risked his own safety to help a diner waitress he had never met. "I do not understand," Victoria said, still processing what had just happened. "You were working this late too." "I own the office building across from your diner," Alexander explained, pulling out his phone to call a taxi. "I often work late, and I have noticed you walking this route many times. Tonight, when I saw those men start following you, I could not just watch from my window." "You have seen me before?" Victoria asked, surprised. Alexander's expression softened slightly. "It is hard not to notice someone who walks with such purpose and determination, even after what I imagine are very long shifts. You always seem so focused, so strong. Tonight, when I realized you were in danger, I knew I had to do something." The taxi arrived within minutes, and Alexander opened the door for Victoria. As she settled into the back seat, he handed the driver a $50 bill. "Make sure she gets home safely," he told the driver, then turned back to Victoria. "I know this has been frightening, but you are safe now." "Wait," Victoria called out before he could walk away. "How can I thank you? You may have saved my life tonight." Alexander paused, his hand on the taxi door. "Just promise me you will be more careful walking alone at night. Maybe vary your route, or ask someone from the diner to walk with you." "I promise," Victoria said earnestly. "But I want to do something to repay your kindness." Your safety is thanks enough, Alexander replied with a gentle smile. Take care of yourself, Victoria. As the taxi pulled away, Victoria realized she had never told him her name, yet somehow he knew it. She spent the entire ride home wondering about the mysterious man who had appeared like a guardian angel when she needed help most. The next morning brought Victoria's usual routine at a different pace. She had barely slept, replaying the previous night's events in her mind. The more she thought about it, the more questions she had about Alexander Stone and how he had known so much about her schedule. At the diner, Victoria found herself glancing frequently toward the office building across the street, wondering if her mysterious protector was watching from one of those windows. The building was modern and impressive, with the kind of architecture that suggested serious business happened inside. During her lunch break, Victoria decided to satisfy her curiosity. She walked across the street and studied the directory in the lobby of the office building. Her eyes widened as she read the names listed. The top floor belonged to Stone Enterprises, with Alexander Stone listed as Chief Executive Officer. "Can I help you?" asked the security guard, noticing her intense study of the directory. "I was looking for information about Stone Enterprises," Victoria said, trying to sound casual. "Mr. Stone's company? They own this building and about half the commercial real estate in the downtown area. Very successful operation. Mr. Stone is quite young to have built such an empire, but he has a reputation for being both brilliant and genuinely caring about his employees and the community." Victoria thanked the guard and walked back to the diner, her mind spinning with this new information. The man who had saved her was not just wealthy, he was one of the most successful business leaders in the city. Yet he had risked his own safety to protect a waitress he barely knew. That evening, as Victoria prepared for another late shift, she found herself hoping she might see Alexander again. Not because she needed rescuing, but because she wanted to understand the man who had shown such unexpected kindness. Around 10 o'clock, during the dinner rush, Victoria noticed a familiar figure enter the diner. Alexander Stone, now dressed in a more casual navy sweater and jeans, took a seat at the counter. He looked different without the expensive suit, more approachable, though no less handsome. "Good evening," Victoria said as she approached with a menu, trying to keep her voice professional despite her racing heart. "Good evening, Victoria," Alexander replied with the same gentle smile she remembered from the night before. "I hope you do not mind that I decided to try the food at the place I have been watching from across the street for so long." "Of course not," Victoria said, pleased that he had come. "What can I get for you? What do you recommend?" Alexander asked, and Victoria could tell he was genuinely interested in her opinion. "The meatloaf is excellent, and Eddie makes the best apple pie in the city," Victoria replied. "Coffee is fresh too, if you drink it." "That sounds perfect," Alexander said. "And Victoria, I wanted to ask how you are feeling after last night. I hope you were not too shaken up." Victoria was touched by his concern. "I'm fine, thanks to you. I have been thinking about it all day, wondering what might have happened if you had not been there." "The important thing is that you are safe," Alexander said seriously. "I have actually been thinking about it too. About how many other people might be walking alone at night without anyone watching out for them." As Victoria served Alexander his dinner, they talked quietly during the brief moments when she was not attending to other customers. She learned that he had built his company from nothing after college, that he believed in giving back to the community, and that he often worked late because he genuinely loved what he did. "I have to admit," Alexander said as Victoria refilled his coffee, "I have been curious about you for months. Watching you walk past my office every night, you always seemed so determined, so independent. Last night gave me an excuse to finally meet you properly." Victoria felt a warmth spread through her chest. "You could have just come into the diner anytime. You did not need a dramatic rescue scenario." Alexander laughed, a rich sound that made Victoria smile despite herself. "I suppose you are right. I guess I was nervous about approaching someone so clearly focused on her own goals. You have this strength about you that is quite intimidating." "Intimidating?" Victoria asked, surprised. "I'm just a waitress trying to save money for college." "Just a waitress," Alexander repeated thoughtfully. "Victoria, in the months I have watched you, I have seen you handle difficult customers with grace, stay late to help your co-workers, and walk home with your head held high no matter how tired you must be. That is not just anything. That is character. As the evening wound down and the diner began to empty, Alexander lingered over his coffee. When Victoria brought him his check, he handed her a business card along with payment that included a generous tip. "I know this might seem forward," Alexander said, "but I would like to take you to dinner sometime. Somewhere nicer than here, though I have to say Eddie's meatloaf was exceptional." Victoria looked at the business card, seeing his name and title printed in elegant letters. "You want to take me to dinner? A CEO wanting to date a diner waitress." "I want to take Victoria Hayes to dinner," Alexander corrected gently. "A woman who impresses me more every time I see her. Your job does not define who you are, just like mine does not define who I am." Victoria felt her heart skip. "I would like that very much." "Excellent," Alexander said, standing to leave. "I will call you tomorrow to arrange the details. And Victoria, please let me know when your shift ends tonight. I would like to make sure you get home safely." As Victoria watched Alexander leave, she reflected on how dramatically her life had changed in just 24 hours. She had gone from being a lonely waitress walking dangerous streets to being protected by a man who saw her as more than her circumstances. Later that week, as Victoria sat across from Alexander at an elegant restaurant, wearing her best dress and feeling like she belonged in his world, she thought about the power of unexpected encounters. He had saved her from immediate danger, but more than that, he had seen something in her that she had almost forgotten was there. "I have been thinking," Alexander said as they shared dessert, "about starting a program to provide safe transportation for service workers who have to travel late at night. Would you be interested in helping me develop something like that?" Victoria smiled, realizing that their connection was about more than romance. It was about two people who cared about making their community better, who had found each other through an act of courage and kindness. "I think that would be wonderful," Victoria replied. "And Alexander, thank you for seeing me that night. Not just the danger I was in, but me as a person worth protecting." Alexander reached across the table and took her hand. "Thank you for being someone worth seeing." As they walked out into the evening air, Victoria no longer felt vulnerable or alone. She had found not just protection, but partnership with someone who valued her strength and wanted to help her build something meaningful together.